Hi, and welcome back to MetaNetTV. This is John, and today I'm talking to Brent, one of our other MetaNetTV contributors. How's it going over there, Brent?
I am well.
And where in the world are you?
I'm in Sydney.
Sydney?
I am in Sydney, yes, in Australia.
All right, cool. And what are you doing for a living over there?
I currently spend my time in medical research, basically, so I get to play with a lot of tiny DNA sequencers and learn a lot about viruses, and Bitcoin's kind of a side passion that I can see some overlap there, hopefully.
Yeah, I have heard from some people that there is an overlap between Bitcoin networks and biological systems. Don't ask me to explain how, because that's about all I know.
Well, they're both very hungry and they don't mind reproducing. So I actually seen a very interesting article some time ago, and I do not know who wrote it. It was comparing the similarity of Bitcoin networks, and it was from a BTC maximalist, actually, I think, and it was comparing the similarity of Bitcoin networks to mycelium and how it sort of spreads out under the soil. That's very interesting.
Okay, when you said mycelium, I was thinking of the Bitcoin wallet.
I'm sure I have never used that wallet.
It was a famous Bitcoin mobile wallet back in the day, but it kind of got mired in scandals and stalls and funding issues.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. So it's got a history then.
Yeah, I think even their logo suggests some kind of chemical structure.
Ah, very nice.
Well, at least now I know where the name comes from. All right, so I guess the question I've been asking everyone is, how did you get into Bitcoin in the first place? How long ago was it, and what attracted you?
I was always sort of had a cursory understanding. I kind of knew how it worked, but the economic significance of it was quite well and truly lost on me until about 2015, 2016, when I got out of high school and started reading some books. And so, yeah, I mean, I knew about Bitcoin since probably 2011, 2012 when I was still in high school. But
wow.
It was like, all right, that's cool. Digital money, cool. So I never really took much notice of it until a few years ago now. And I started on the BTC maximalist side. I could see some of the justifications being much more sound than you would find in Ethereum or some of the other proof of stake tokens. It kind of seemed to follow coherently. I eventually put my foot through the floorboards, so to speak, in BSV, and I was like, they started answering a few questions which are always sort of holes in my conceptual understanding of how Bitcoin worked and why things were the way they were. And I was like, I can't justify this viewpoint anymore, so I just hell with it, SV. So that's how I got here.
I think you're kind of unique among this group in that you were never one of the Bitcoin Cash people.
No, not at all. And I kind of feel like that's to my detriment, because I think a lot of people have a lot of knowledge between, I guess what it was, 2 years that Bitcoin Cash, 2 years ago when Bitcoin Cash forked off the core chain.
Yeah, that's right.
There's a lot of lore and history that happened in that time that I think I missed out on, because I just thought it was just a silly idea to have big blocks. And I was like, nah, actually, no, it's how it's meant to work.
Well, I mean, it kind of predates that even, because there was it probably stems from the initial Hong Kong agreement, and even before then, in chat rooms. So that was about 2015 or even in the years before. But right from the start, people were arguing about how Bitcoin's going to scale. So I guess it was a schism that was always going to happen. I threw myself
into it really strongly around the time that I think it was called the New York Agreement, or SegWit 2X.
Yeah, that one too.
I threw myself into it really strongly there, and that never happened. And I just sort of assumed, okay, well, the core guys, the 1 megabyte cap is the consensus, and followed from there.
I think the reason that's a consensus now is because there's just no one left arguing for any other opposing view.
Well, ever since he kicked out Gavin and the other guys that were sensible.
Do you think that there's still a case for BTC maximalism out there? It is the Bitcoin that most people associate with the name, and I mean, when I talk to my normie friends, it's really the only one they know. Like if I start talking Bitcoin Cash or Bitcoin SV, they just they look at me like I'm just talking nonsense, and then they stop listening.
I think it's got a very thin sort of intellectual veneer that's been structured by certain people that have sort of gotten into it, like Saifedean Amos with the Bitcoin Standard, and have sort of given it this polished economic justification when you actually read the writings from Satoshi Nakamoto and Bitcoin Talk forums. Are completely counter to what those guys are saying. And when you put that in front of them, they go, something switches in their brain, and they go sort of like revisionist. They go, oh, Satoshi didn't realize this, or Satoshi could never have imagined what happened. It's like, actually, he did. And there's posts addressing exactly what you're saying right now.
Yeah.
So I think the more and more you put these posts right under people's noses, the quicker the actual sort of economic and philosophical justification starts to fall away, and then all you've got is speculation holding up the market.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I don't really see anything other than speculation holding up the BTC market at the moment.
No, absolutely. I mean,
that and maybe Tether.
There was a lot of absolutely. There was a lot of promise in the early days, and I remember watching some of the videos back in 2012 about Bitcoin being an ledger that could always have future software added to it, and you could have sort of document stores and land title agreements. And I was like, it's kind of cool. But as the years went on, it never really happened. And then I got introduced to the narrative where Bitcoin was to be the settlement layer of the new global money. And I was like, I guess that makes sense, because it's congruent with the 1 megabyte cap.
Yeah.
So, I kind of put those ideas of Bitcoin being an immutable data store on the shelf and sort of ignored it until I started reading BSV arguments.
Yeah, well, I think that probably gives you an interesting perspective that some of our other writers may not have, because I mean, most of the people we have at MetaNetTV, like I said, they were Bitcoin cashers, so they've long accepted the big block argument, and they've sort of long accepted the realities of forks away from Bitcoin. So it's going to be interesting to hear from someone who comes from that maximalist. I don't really like that word, but
there are a few of us. I've met a few people that came from a similar position that I did, but I don't think it's in any way equal in proportion. I'd say it's like 90 to 10.
Well, still, it's good to see though, because I thought those people were like long gone. We'd lost them a long time ago.
See, there's people that are recoverable because there's a lot of Austrian economics focus, I think, on the BTC chain, and rightfully so. I think they seem to meet each other in the middle quite well, but the technical side of it is where people start to fall away from Austrian economics. So I think the more you rattle them, the more you put these quotes onto their faces, and the more you make the economic arguments, the more you're more likely to get separatists from BTC over to BSV.
Yeah, interesting point that I hadn't really thought too much about. So, at MetaNetTV, what do you think you're going to be focusing on? I know we're going to have a closer look at the MetaNet itself, rather than the economics of Bitcoin and the money financial aspect. So, what interests you about that?
I'm interested in how it can be used as a security measure in a lot of ways, and the immutability of having web pages and data that cannot be tampered with after the fact. I think that changes the economics of a lot of things, a lot of security infrastructure, and what I'm doing with UptimeSV, what we're doing the monitoring, and it's sort of the question that some might pop up in nefarious minds is, well, why wouldn't you use a tool like that for nefarious purposes to overload someone's web server? Like, well, no. Well, you think about it. If you had a request that was immutably stored on the chain, there's a degree of accountability that doesn't exist in other blockchains because they refuse to scale. And then there's a proof of stake versus proof of work issue there. So I'm very much heavily focused in the economics of it, and then the efficiency improvements that come from having an immutable data storage. system.
Yeah, I know Jerry David, or AKA Digitsu, has been talking a lot about the MetaNet's advantages for scientific researchers. As a scientific researcher yourself, do you see any advantages there?
It's tough to say. It's early days. I think a lot of the troubles that come into people, for example, tampering with instrument data or modifying results like after the fact, I think there's avenues that can be explored there, and getting off these old write once, read multiple times systems, which are basically only constructed, in my understanding, only constructed for legislation rather than economics. I think it'd be more of an interesting alternative to what sort of new paradigm that has. And then you also have a pretty good system almost out of the gate for inventory as well. I think inventory in terms of scientific resources and reagents and chemicals and disposables. I think there's avenues there as well.
Yeah. I have to confess, I come from a totally non-scientific background. I just know a few scientists, so I recognize a few of those words.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It's interesting. BSV is an interesting mix of people from lore and people from computer science, and then a little bit of economics also there. So it makes for an interesting fusion.
Well, that's one of the things I've always liked about it.
Well, I liked on the dev day in Toronto, there was some engineers there that were using engineering and in Japan. I think they were using the BSV blockchain for stuff that they needed to solve. I think it's good. There's a variety that's happening.
So you've mentioned the dev day and I think one other BSV development project in there. Are you involved with any of these yourself, or any that you can talk about?
Just the one at the moment, which is UptimeSV. So we won the hackathon that went to Toronto. So we built that out in 48 hours. Got sort of a minimal working product, and we took that to Toronto and got to meet everyone.
Cool.
Certainly a lot of people and a lot of projects that we're watching closely. I mean, the community's a lot more collaborative at the moment than it is competitive. I imagine it will move to a more competitive state once the infrastructure and tooling allows people more degrees of freedom.
Guaranteed.
Yeah, everyone's super collaborative, super polite.
At first,
reach out. You at first,
yeah.
But you can reach out to people, and we're friends with the guys doing Twitch, and Twitch is like looking like an awesome product already. It's the amount of work they're putting in is quite phenomenal. They've built out multiple revisions, and they're rolling out updates every week or two now. It's great.
Very cool, and congratulations on that hackathon award as well.
Thank you.
Did you want to throw in a plug for that as well, for Uptime?
Well, we've got if people want to go to UptimeSV.com, we've got a beta tester sign up form, so you can register for the mailing list. And once we roll out the beta, you can hopefully get on there and tell us how code sucks and things we need to fix.
I'm sure someone will do that.
We're looking to, get something out there that's nice and polished and start bringing across businesses that are using these pretty terrible fiat-based systems and subscription models where you can do it as a micropayment service on BSV and get some real on-chain scaling happening and rub it in the face of BTC.
Awesome. So, and Uptime's kind of a back-end tool more than a consumer tool, isn't it?
Well, it is certainly for system administrators, but I think what we would like to do also is have a public lens, so to speak, where I know right now some websites offer data from unknown sources, but whenever Twitter goes down, you'll go, is Twitter down on Google, and you'll find these websites sometimes have like a graph, and then you'll suddenly see like a massive uptick in outages. And I think if we can do that with the benefit we have as a service is we would have a distributed user base where you'd actually get real data rather than someone in like running an AWS instance that checks these things. So you can actually ideally, if it is out in Australia for whatever reason, or if it is out in the Philippines, you can actually ask people in Australia or the Philippines or wherever that, well, is it out? And it is indeed out, and then you could present that website so people can digest it and actually get a sense of what's wrong.
Very cool. I don't think most consumer end people out there don't really realize what it takes to keep an online service running. Like even if it's a news site.
That's the lack of ambition that I always seen in BTC. Is there are a bunch of people that have never run a network bigger than their home land, and they have a poor appreciation of just how much resources and money are invested in keeping these services online and making sure that they're fast and reliable.
Yeah. And our other bonus in BSV is we have all these stress test teams that are always trying to bring it all down.
Oh, great.
In a good way.
I love Derek Moore. Derek Moore is cool. Just took like 2 reorgs now by uploading like InfoWars videos and stuff.
Right.
Funny.
And he's proud of it.
I'm proud of him too. It looks fantastic.
Excellent. Alrighty then, Brent. I got to wrap it up there. But thanks a lot for talking to us today, and I look forward to seeing you around on MetaNetTV.
My pleasure.
All right. See you later, man.
Cheers.